Hub Battles, Germantown, by Command Post Game. The night of October 3rd, 1777 was very dark. Fog was beginning to build up, and George Washington reconsidered his plans of having everyone march through the night. Too much risk of getting lost. The plan was complicated enough. He more carefully moves his troops into position to begin their assault at dawn. His plan is a double envelopment of Germantown by his two commanders, Greene and Sullivan. To the north of Germantown, he will demonstrate with his two militia commanders and with Knox's artilleries. The early morning finds Howe's forces advancing through the fog. Greene has made his way down the Mandaway Road. Sullivan is coming down the Old York Road. No doubt there will be a confrontation here. Smallwood and Armstrong creep along with their militias, and Washington has Knox set up his artillery just out of sight for British forces in Germantown. Howe keeps his force together while he waits for Nithausen's arrival later on this morning. He sends a detachment out to the right along Old York Road and creeps his artillery with a detachment towards the crossing of the Wissahickon River. Washington and Smallwood confer as they begin tightening the cordon around Germantown. They're holding until the flank attack begins. As Armstrong's troops begin advancing on Washington's left, they encounter British troops. Sullivan, hearing a disturbance to his right, comes out of column and begins deploying his advancing troops. In the early morning fog, Howe deploys his artillery just within sight of Vandering's Mill. If the Continentals want to cross here, he's got them covered. Now, Howe has reports of occasional shots from his forward troops at Chew House, and he also is aware of something developing off to his right. He orders Nithausen's troops to probe forward. He sends his dragoons up the Limekiln Road. Suddenly his right comes alive. The probing British forces fall back. It's mid-morning, and Howe believes he's found the American army on his right. He wants to believe one sharp blow should drive off the American, but he remembers Brandywine, and he's thinking, I hope that works. Armstrong's militia falls back. They're not going to try to stand toe-to-toe with the world's finest military army. Nithausen races on ahead of his bags and confers with Howe. Sullivan sends word to move his baggage off to the left, get them away from the fight. He drives forward with his entire force. Greene sends what troops he can to come across and try to silence those guns. Abercrombie's men in Chew House hear the commotion and fall back to the British lines. Smallwood's militia hears a horseman, fires some shots, and recoils. Eulenburg's Virginians drive off the cannon. On the far British right, the troops fall back from the Continental assault. Greene crosses the Wissahickon in force and makes his way along the Schuylkill River. Sullivan continues to press on the Continental right, but he has Lord Stirling move slightly, looking for the rest of the British army. Cornwallis has Matthews wheel around and strike at the Continentals. Agnew cautiously advances. The rest of the line moves forward blindly in the fog until they begin to encounter the rest of the Continental Army. The British cannons pull back and set up a line on the ridge. Armstrong's militia wheel about and come just within sight of the advancing British troops. Nithausen wheels his hard-pressed troops around and makes a stand just north of the pond. Smallwood sends a few militiamen off to fire at the dragoons, while the main body of his militia attacks Howe's line from the flank. Washington sends in McDougall's men from Connecticut to stymie the British drive. It's late morning. Dense fog is still clinging to the ground, and now it's added to the obscurity by all the gunfire up and down the line. In the center, the British are driven back, although the dragoons make short work of the militia guarding the flank. In the center of Sullivan's line, the British cause heavy losses, and a handful of spent Continentals fall back, although the forces on the British extreme right are taken prisoner. After a lunch which never comes, Nithausen sends his forces around to flank attack the Continentals on the other side of the pond. Washington drives hard in the center. The dragoons continue their fight with the militia. Agnew sends back riders to Howe to find out what he wants him to do. Does he want him to chase the militia, support the combat off to the east or join the drive on Germantown. Matthews' troops attempt to destroy the rest of Sullivan's command. Armstrong holds, wondering what's wrong with why the British aren't attacking. He steadies his line, tells his boys all you gotta do is fire once and run away. Sullivan wonders where Greene is. This is supposed to be a double envelopment. He's getting crushed. He's pulling his line back. He can't hold here any longer. For his part, Greene knows he's getting behind schedule and he drives hard towards the Germantown pike. While the Grenadiers run into a traffic jam on the Germantown pike as they hit Nefausen's supply trains from behind, Cornwallis races ahead and confers with Howe. Heavy fighting in the center sees Washington's Continentals destroyed. In desperate fighting, Greene's troops capture the British artillery. It's mid-afternoon and Sullivan tries to form a line on the east side. Cornwallis, sensing opportunity, drives north of Germantown. The Grenadiers, still trapped behind Nefausen's bags, come out of column and begin their march around. Nefausen finally gets his bags off the road and has them guarded by the Hessians. Matthews continues to push on the Virginians. Washington's troops fall back into the woods. Armstrong's militia continues to keep a wary watch on the British. And finally, Greene's troops continue their drive and make contact with the British bags. Matthews flushes the Virginians out of the woods, but the Virginians survive. And of course, here in the center, the detachment is destroyed, the bags are captured. So there you have it. Dinner time, the British Army is broken. The Americans have won Germantown.